Mr. Patrick would lend you any amount you asked for without interest, but he would send his men to ambush you and collect the money. You either paid back if you could, which allowed him to collect double, or you did as he said. Some people tried to pay, but when the payment time elapsed, they had no choice but to carry out his bidding. A man who borrowed a huge sum of money from Mr. Patrick was later robbed by his men. He returned to Mr. Patrick crying and pleaded with him to give him more time. Mr. Patrick then gave him his instruction. He had 6 months to pay back the money, or Mr. Patrick would take his wife and daughters. The man had a wife and 2 daughters, and they were his only children. Mr. Patrick had demanded his family in exchange for the debt he owed. The man knelt and wept bitterly, begging Mr. Patrick not to take his family away from him, but Mr. Patrick turned a deaf ear. The man worked tooth and nail to meet the payment. He cleared bushes and cultivated farms. From sunrise to sunset, he worked endlessly. Despite his struggles, the 6 months passed, and he was unable to fulfill the agreement. Mr. Patrick then took his wife and 2 daughters. The man was helpless. He watched another man take his family away from him. He could not protect them. All he could do was cry. A hardworking man who owned a large farmland wanted to expand it, so he went to Mr. Patrick to ask for a certain amount of money. Mr. Patrick smiled and said, "I like your hardworking spirit. You are indeed a hustler, but the money you are asking for is too small. You have a very big farmland, and you need a lot of money for sophisticated tractors and other machines. I will triple the amount and lend it to you. You will need it." Mr. Patrick lent him a very large sum of money, and as usual, on his way back, Mr. Patrick's men robbed him and took all the money. "Why were you so careless?" Mr. Patrick said to him. "The money I lent you is so huge that even if you sell your farmland, you will not be able to pay back half of it." The farmer was devastated. "I am confused right now. I don't know what to do," he said. Mr. Patrick looked at him with pity and said, "You are a hardworking man, and I admire your spirit, so I will make it easy for you. I will take your farmland, but it is still not enough to cover the debt. To complete the payment, you will manage the farm for me for free. You will cultivate it, take care of the crops, and harvest them. I will not give you a dime, but you are free to eat from the farm produce." The farmer felt broken. He had lost everything in his attempt to make his life better, but he had no choice but to accept. Mr. Patrick lent a huge sum of money to a man whose mother was on the verge of death. The man needed the money urgently for his mother's operation. As usual, after collecting the money from Mr. Patrick, he was attacked and robbed by Mr. Patrick's men. Because of this, he lost his mother. Since the money was too much for him to repay, Mr. Patrick made him his slave. Mr. Patrick did not care about the man's dying mother, he only cared about his own gain. The man worked tirelessly for Mr. Patrick. One day, another man came to borrow money from Mr. Patrick. He needed a very large amount, and Mr. Patrick lent it to him. They discussed, laughed, and drank together, but deep down, Mr. Patrick was happy because the repayment would be massive due to the size of the loan. While the man was on his way back, Mr. Patrick's men blocked his path, trying to rob him. Unknown to them, the man had already made plans. He had stationed security men around him at different angles. Immediately, his guards came out and confronted Mr. Patrick's men. Mr. Patrick's men were defeated, they could not collect the money, and one of them died during the fight. When the bad news was reported to Mr. Patrick, he did not care about the man who had died. His only concern was the money. "What is wrong with you all?" he said angrily. "Why did you let him escape with the money? Now it will take me years to get my money back. This is not what I expected." His men began to wonder why they were serving him. One of them said, "Why are we serving a man who does not care about our lives? One of us died in the line of duty, and he showed no concern. All he cared about was his money." Another man added, "It's not even as if he lost the money completely. The borrower will still pay him back." A third man said, "What do you expect from a man who lends money, forcefully collects it back, and then turns people into slaves or takes their property as repayment? We are the ones he uses to carry out these evil acts, yet he does not care about our lives," the last man said. He is selfish and self-centered. They were angry and bitter, and soon they began to plot. On the other side, the slaves worked tirelessly, but deep inside, they were afraid. They began to think carefully. Why was it that everyone who borrowed a large sum of money from Mr. Patrick ended up being robbed, while those who borrowed small amounts were spared? They also noticed that it was always the same number of men who attacked them, 5 men each time, their faces covered with masks. Why was that? There must be something suspicious going on, one of them said, and they began to suspect the truth. Meanwhile, Mr. Patrick was enjoying himself with the wives and daughters of those he had taken from. All he did was chase pleasure, eat, sleep, and wait for his next victim. While he was in his inner chambers, enjoying himself with the wives and daughters of some of his victims, a slave burst in, anger burning in his eyes as he stared at Mr. Patrick as though he wanted to devour him. Mr. Patrick looked at him in shock and shouted, "What effrontery is this? Why have you entered my inner chambers uninvited and with such boldness? I will make sure you are punished for this." He called for one of his men, who came in immediately. Mr. Patrick ordered him to take the slave away and give him the beating of his life. But the man did not obey. He said nothing, he simply crossed his arms and stared at Mr. Patrick. Mr. Patrick grew even more furious. "Are you deaf?" he yelled. "I gave you an order, yet you stand there with your arms folded, looking at me like that." Then another of his men entered and said, "Shut your mouth, you fool. Your wickedness ends today." Mr. Patrick was stunned. He did not understand what was happening. Soon, the rest of his men came in, followed by a troop of slaves and those whose wives and properties he had taken. Mr. Patrick was left speechless, his mouth hanging open in the greatest shock of his life. "So you are the evil one," one man said angrily. "You lent me money, then secretly stole it back. After that, you took my wife and daughters as repayment for what you stole from me." Another man spoke up. "My mother was close to death. I begged you to lend me money for her surgery, and you did. But you went behind my back and stole the money. My mother died, and you still made me your slave as repayment. What a heartless soul you are. You took my farmland away from me, you fool," one man said. "After lending me money to expand it, you stole the same money back. Yet you took my land and made me work on my own farmland for wages. How heartless can you be?" Mr. Patrick was filled with fear. He looked at his men for protection, but one of them glared at him and said, "Now you want to lean on us for protection. Really, you heartless fool. You value your own life so much, yet you ignore the death of one of your men, whom you use for your dirty acts. All you cared about was money. You did not care about his life, how his corpse was handled, or how he was buried. Instead, you cursed us for failing to steal the money. Everyone else can die, but you. Today, you will die." Mr. Patrick fell to his knees and cried for help, but no words came out. He was speechless and could only beg for mercy with his tears. He was stripped naked, paraded around the kingdom, and buried alive. The wives and daughters of the people he had taken away returned to their families, and they were reunited. Those who had lost their lands and properties got back everything taken from them. The slaves were set free, and the rest of his wealth was shared among all the victims. At last, the kingdom knew peace again. Justice had spoken, and the people were free and happy.